What up? Welcome to Homegrown Hustle, where local brilliance takes the center stage. I'm your host, Matt Eickman. Join us every week in celebrating innovation, guidance, and the power to inspire greatness. Let's explore the stories that shape our local business landscape, and together, let's ignite the spark of excellence.
Like, what causes an ice dam? Like, that's because we're running into it. And every time there's squirrel damage and there's mouse damage, like the insulation is typically impacted.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about all these icicles that are hanging off people's homes, like what do you think when you see it?
Sure. Well, it's basically two things that causes an ice dam. I'm oversimplifying things, but you got heat that's reaching the roof decking. Somehow you got heat from the house, it gets to the roof decking and the snow melts. And then number two, you need snow.
Okay. So that's the part of the equation that's only like happening part of the year, right? So
yeah,
education to the homeowner, really for them to see the impact of the insulation work getting done in the summer or anything like that. You kind of have to wait until you see the downline effects.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
Kind of, sort of.
Okay.
It's more obvious when you don't have water leaking in. Like, okay, great. I don't have ruined ceilings. Now I can feel and see this. But it's not to say that's the only time you're going to experience the positive effects of fixing your attic. And one thing I want to touch on is you had said, you fix your attic in the summer. My strong advice would be don't fix your attic in the summer. As you know very well, Matthew.
I hate going in attics in the summer, man.
It sucks. Nobody's going to do their best work in a 150-degree attic. I mean, this is the time to go in there. And I'm just touching on this because I hear so many people say, well, yeah, this spring or this summer, I'm thinking about hiring to get somebody to come out. And I'm like, well, why later? Well, nobody wants to get up there in the winter. Oh, yes, they do. This is an important distinction.
That's exactly when they want to get up there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's actually a workplace hazard during the summer. Like, you can't really keep your guys up there that long doing any type of work anyway. So you've probably seen some of the worst kind of side effects of ice dams with as many different homes that you guys have gone to over the years, right? Is there any type of trickle down impact that you see happening in the structure after the ice is built up, and like what's the damage you're typically seeing? Because for us, we're coming in there for squirrels and mice and stuff like that, right? So if it gets to the point where a gutter or something's falling off, that's quite a bit bigger of a hole than what we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about the negative effects.
I'd say if the worst thing you got is a gutter being ripped off the house, that's great. But then to make it a little bit worse is when you have leaking coming in and you've got water coming out of your soffits and you've got water sitting in the soffit space and it's rotting out your soffits. That kind of sucks. Once you've got water inside the wall and you've got water and ice built up on the outside of your wall, you've had a leak that's possibly hit your top plate of your wall, and then you've got water inside the wall. That's even worse because how's that wall going to dry out? But then even worse is when you've got water on your ceilings inside the house. And, that's the point at which people usually take action. In my experience, a lot of people will be totally fine with water on their walls and rotted soffits, and they just let it go. But once it's coming inside the house and you actually have water coming out of your ceiling, out of light fixtures, you got holes in your ceiling because it's rotted away, that's where people take action. So that's the really bad stuff.
So that's obvious. Like, all those things are kind of like how the home's not supposed to work, right? So in an ideal world, when the snow hits the roof, like, what's supposed to happen?
Nothing. The snow is supposed to just stay there. I mean, ideally, if it's 25 degrees outside, it's going to be really close to 25 degrees in your attic, and you're going to have snow sitting on there, and the only melting that's going to happen is when the sun hits it or you have temperatures above freezing, and that's where it'll melt, and it'll all kind of melt evenly. But when you have a house that's not perfect, and most houses are not perfect, You've got some heat from inside the house reaching that roof decking. It melts the snow from underneath. Now, on top, it might still be really cold and you might not see any signs of it, but you get to the bottom of a foot of snow and now you've got some melting going on and all that water runs down the roof and then it reaches the edge and all of a sudden we don't have heat from the house at the edge. It gets cold again and it freezes and then it keeps building up. And then you have a literal dam of ice that's going to be trapping water. And you can, I mean, I shared a photo in our Facebook page just the other day. It was the worst, I don't know, pool of water I've ever seen in a house. You had water several inches deep on the surface of a roof. I mean, I stuck my glove in there and I soaked my hand.
Is it a flat roof?
No, it was a pitched roof. And it wasn't even a super low slope. I mean, it was a moderate pitch, but they had such a big dam of ice. There was a pool of water trapped underneath it. And that's where you get roof leaks because a sloped roof is not waterproof. It's going to shed water. But once you've got a pool of water on there, I mean, I don't care what they did with the roof, even if they've got the ice and water shield, the sticky, gooey stuff you're supposed to put underneath your shingles, even if you put that on there, when you've got water sitting in a pool on your roof, it's going to find its way through. And I'm saying this in defense of all of the roofers out there, because when people have ice dams and they've got leaks coming through their roof, their first call is always to a roofer. And I'm telling you, this is not the roofer's problem. This is where the water comes through, but this has nothing to do with them.
And what you're hitting on right there, like it's a lot like wildlife intrusion. So the more there's animals on your roof, the greater there's a chance that they can get in, because a lot, like you just said, that the roof is going to shed the water, right, until it starts building up. Well, animals can go a lot of different directions, right? They don't just go down like water does. So with that, the voids that roofers aren't typically thinking of, those are some of the voids that animals get in. So like the drip edge in particular, right there at the gutter line, right?
Sure.
That's where we're seeing a lot of the ice dam damage, right? Especially in these homes in Minneapolis that have a knee wall and actual like a bedroom or additional rooms in the attic space that have been converted from an attic. So now, like with a home like that, how does that change like how the heat moves through the home? Are they like doomed for a
1.5 story house? Yeah, I'd say you're just doomed. I'm sorry. You can't fix a 1.5 story house. And I say it a little tongue in cheek. You can, but it's usually cost prohibitive. And if you've got some insulation contractor, some general contractor coming out telling you, I'm going to fix your 1.5 story house, I'm going to fix the ice dams at your house, I want to see their plan, and I'm calling BS. They're not going to fix it. They're going to charge you a bunch of money to not fix it because it is cost prohibitive to fix those houses.
So what can those homeowners do then to kind of prevent?
Great question.
Like what's the
well, and I was hoping to kind of tee this question up. I was hoping you'd ask me that when I started out, saying there's two things that causes the ice dams. You got heat from the house reaching the roof deck. There's nothing you can do about that on a 1.5 story house. But the other part, you got snow on the roof. Take care of that. Remove the snow. Simple as that.
For all roofs?
Yeah, for all roofs.
Really?
You get a roof rake. If you take the snow off, you will not have an ice dam. It's as simple as that.
Is that how that works, Reuben?
That's it. That's it. It is so easy.
Just a roof raking thing, huh?
Just a roof rake. But, you know, I make it's easier said than done, like all things.
Because it happens quick, right? Like, especially this last one, there was, I mean, we got what, 6-8 inches of snow, and then it was like the next day, 20,
it'll set in quick.
Hours.
Yeah.
So you got to be out there.
You got to be out there while it's snowing. I mean, you know, you get the first 4 inches, get out there with your roof rake, with your big long pole, and pull all the snow off in the middle of the snowstorm. And then when it's done snowing 4 hours later, you got to do it again. And I'm not telling you it's easy. I mean, it seems easy to anybody who's never used a roof rake. It seems like you're just pulling snow down off your roof. Gravity's working for you. You're basically just guiding this thing. Oh no, it's not like that. I used to have a 1.5 story house. It's a lot of work. It is a shoulder workout. You are sweating.
mean, we do this all the time. Like to get to the areas we're sealing up, we had to remove snow to like safely get up there, right? So honestly, that combined with the fact that we see so much correlation between like animal activity and damage, and then the ice dams being kind of right in that area. We've had a couple jobs where we set the traps before the snow came, and then after the snow, our traps are iced in to the gutter line or whatever now. So
Sure. Yeah.
like in your mind, do you think that there's a correlation there between the animals? So let's, for instance, a gray squirrel gets into a gutter corner, right? At like an inner gutter corner. So you got a 90-degree with the gutter and they get in right there. How does the heat move differently in the home now that that hole's there and the animal's coming and going?
What I think those squirrels do and mice do and all these other critters do is they like to make homes out of the insulation and they disturb it. They move it all over the place. And then when I get up in the attic and I'm doing an inspection and I'm taking my infrared camera and I scan around, I'm looking for everything to be a nice uniform temperature, nice and cold, as close to the outdoor temperature as possible. But you go in those areas where you've got pest problems. I mean, mice are bad, but squirrels are horrible. And you go in those areas where you got pests and you're looking on your infrared camera and everything's nice and blue and cold. And then all of a sudden you get this big red, orange, yellow explosion on your screen. And you go, oh, why is this area of the attic ridiculously hot? And you get over there and it's pest trails. I mean, it's just holes in the insulation. And even worse, holes to inside the house. I mean, they're seeking heat.
So for like, let's say somebody's going to watch this awesome piece of content that we're putting together right here, and they want to pop their heads up into the attic space. What should the attic look like? Like, if it's perfect, like what should it look like?
It should look nice and uniform. You should see a nice layer of insulation covering the whole attic floor. And, I assume we're not talking about a 1.5 story house because, like I said, you can't fix those. But we're saying you got a rambler. You got this big attic space. It should be loose fill insulation. And I know everybody, handy homeowners love to get the rolls of the fiberglass bats. You get a big roll of it and you roll it out in your attic. I have never seen fiberglass bats installed properly. Every time you got those in an attic, you're going to have gaps all over the place. It is impossible to install a fiberglass bat properly in an attic space. You're going to leave voids all over. Loose fill, that's super easy to install. Now, I mean, of course, you got to have a blower. Usually it's going to be professionally done, or you're going to have a homeowner who really knows what they're doing and you're going to rent a blower, which is a big deal. But you blow that stuff out throughout the attic and you end up with much more uniform coverage. You end up filling all of the gaps and it actually costs a lot less per square foot to use loose fill insulation. That's ideally what you're going to see when you poke your head in the attic.
And it should be like 15 to 18 inches is that's what code is, right?
That's a pretty good amount. Yeah. And the code is prescriptive where they say you need, it's performance based where you need to meet this R value. It's a certain level of insulating value. And for different types of insulation, that will mean different depths. And, the number you're talking about, 15 to 18, somewhere in there. That's probably what I'd expect to see on a new construction house. Yeah. Now, an older house, I'm not going to get super picky. I mean, if you got a foot of insulation, maybe 10 inches, enough.
It's going to settle over time, right? Like you blow it in and it'll kind of, at least that's what we see when we go in afterwards, whether it's settled and that's why it's not at that kind of code number, or there's like, you put the flashlight down closer to the insulation, you can see trails really easily.
Sure.
On our end, dang near every attic we go into has some level of mouse activity. And that's when they're calling us.
Yes.
Can you agree with that? Like, can we record right here, Reuben? Let's talk about like the occurrence of mice in attics in Minnesota. Feel free to go
often. Go
on a rant, Reuben.
I'm training I got 2 guys in training right now. And when we're talking about attics, I tell them, look, you're expecting to see signs of mice. If you don't see signs of mice, you don't see mouse trails or poop or whatever, you're probably not looking hard enough. You probably need to try a little bit harder. And I mean, if you're really going out of your way and you're looking for it, you don't see it, that's fine. I'm not telling you got to report on something that's not there. But it's that common where you really got to look hard for it, because mice love making houses in your attic.
And it's usually pretty easy to see it if the home's like older than like 12 to 24 months typically. Like you can typically see it from the scuttle hole when you just pop your head up there. But like
Yeah.
if you're not seeing it, the way we can negatively impact it the most as vendors or contractors is like walking around in the attic space and compacting the insulation ourselves. Do you see that as well, where like you're going up there and it looks like a raccoon was up there, but it was just some guy and selling some can lights or something?
All the time, Matthew. We find that even on new construction, where they did a nice job, all the insulation looked good, and then you had a low voltage person come through there and just put big old boot prints all over the attic space. Yeah, we've seen it.
So what are like the best practices then? Let's say somebody, like, what do you recommend, right? You're handling these homes. Typically you're representing the purchasing side, right?
Yeah.
What are these homeowners asking you typically in regards to the attic space? Maybe ice dams this time of year. Like, what type of questions around that?
Well, the biggest thing is, what do I do to fix it? And as long as we're talking about this, we should also talk about frost in the attic and mold in the attic, because what drives all of these things is the same thing, and we haven't talked about it yet. I mean, we've kind of danced around it. I said it's heat getting up into the attic space. And we talked a little bit about insulation, which is important, and we talked about what you can look for. It's important to have insulation. The big thing, I mean, I'd say this is probably 70 to 80% of the problems with every attic: frost, mold, ice dams, all of these things. It's not about the insulation. It's about warm air from inside the house leaking up into the attic space. And no amount of insulation is going to fix that. And you hire some hack insulation contractor to come add more insulation. All they've done is make your attic a little bit colder and make it way more prone to having frost and mold and ice dams and all these other things. Adding insulation alone is a horrible thing to do. Where it needs to start is just seal all of the attic air leaks. And I'm talking about in the top plates of walls where individual wires pass through a hole. I mean, you've got experience with houses, Matthew. You know, if you're an electrician and you're going to feed Romex through a hole in a 2x4, you're not drilling a 1/2-inch hole. I mean, you could technically get a piece of wire to fit through there, but you're drilling a 1-inch hole so you can easily pull it through. What do you do with the rest of that space where this tiny wire went through? It needs to be sealed. And that's just one example. Top plates of walls where they intersect, plumbing vents where they come into attic spaces, furnace vents, big furnace vents. What'll usually happen is you've got a chaseway that's about 1 foot by 1 foot, and then you've got a 6-inch pipe coming through it. What do you do with the rest of that space? I mean, these are passageways big enough where you could almost fit a person through there.
And really that's where like the air gap sealing around all of that to prevent the heat from just like climbing right up and in there.
Yes.
Like when we're doing the insulation work on our end, like that's part of the steps is all the air gap sealing around can lights and all that. And that's like kind of harder than if we just suck it all out and blow it back in, right? Like if digging around all the insulation to get to all that, like it's hard. Like it really is.
It is very labor intensive.
But like when we're running into attics where it's not a big buildup of bat guano, but it's like just mouse droppings in a few different areas, like sometimes it's hard to really recommend on our end full attic remediation, because other than the impact on the R value, like it's their home, it's their energy costs. Unless they're going to be going up in the attic playing around, like there's not a lot of health risk there for them either. So we're usually not too concerned about that. But what I heard you say was the best process is not to just blow insulation over, get a couple more inches on it, make it look nice and clean, but like clean it all out and seal up all those gaps. Like is
Yes.
is that what we should be recommending on our end exclusively, in your opinion?
Exclusively. In fact, it's so important that it's actually law in Minnesota. It's part of the Minnesota Energy Code. It says that an insulation contractor is not allowed to add insulation to an existing attic without performing air sealing first. It is this critically important. Now, there's plenty of them who ignore that, and because that's where all the money is just adding insulation. Nobody understands air sealing, and they don't appreciate how much work it is and how much money it costs. And like, well, that's all nice and good. I know I should do this, but I just want more insulation because that's what they understand.
Yeah. Well, and that's the logic, right? So right now it's like just pest control. Like I see mice, I'm gonna call a pest control person to get a guy out here to set traps. That doesn't really solve the problem. Like, it makes you think you solved the problem, but really the problem we could have prevented 3 to 6 months ago. So now let's work on next year's problem and start preventing those things.
Yeah.
But coming in, having to like do a reset. I mean, we get hundreds of customers every year they're calling us because they just moved into a new home and they know this is a thing and they want to get in front of that. Right. Not every homeowner does that, especially my generation. My generation is not the best at taking care of houses, Reuben. So like the things that they should do either themselves or have somebody else do, it usually comes up when it comes up. Right. So is pest control something that you think people should just get on, like from a proactive service type of thing?
I mean, for me, it's almost like once you have a problem, you deal with it. What
That
do you
makes
think?
sense. I mean, going back to our conversation earlier on, we were talking about how many homes we see rodent damage in the attic space, right? And it sounded like you were saying almost all of them.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So with that, like, you're getting kind of an unbiased perspective, right? You're going in, I'm just inspecting because of this transaction. We're going because there's a pest problem, and we do kind of a similar inspection to what you do, not quite as in depth with all the gadgets and gizmos and stuff, but we're kind of in every room in the home, around the attic, around the foundation, all that type of stuff. So we see just as many issues as you do. So obviously for our business, it makes sense for us to recommend that.
Sure.
And sometimes customers might even think that pest control people are just saying, yep, there's mice in the attic or whatever. But there's other things that can get in the attic too. There's flying squirrels, there's gray squirrels, red squirrels, all the different things.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I think for somebody who's purchasing a new home and they're looking to live there with their family, it comes down to like, what do you want to spend your time doing?
Yeah.
And like, right, like think about it right now, Reuben. Like, if you were somebody who didn't like your mother-in-law or sister-in-law or somebody, and Christmas is like around the corner and they're gonna be coming over and you're kind of don't like them, but like you really just want to like make them, like, you don't want them to have any like backhanded comments type of thing.
Sure.
And then you see a mouse when you're finishing up the Christmas decorations like 3-4 days ahead of time. Like, that's the calls that we get right now.
Bet. High
Right.
stress.
And it's like, this is my first, like, we just moved into this house this year. This is the first time. Like, yeah, you don't usually know it's going to be an issue until it kind of happens, unless you take action on whatever you guys identify from the inspection, or somebody comes on, knocks on your door and sells it to you in the middle of the summer. Like, that's kind of what happens. But I mean, the rodent population is not going down anytime soon. That's why exterior maintenance and monitoring makes sense, even if we're not doing all the roof line animal proofing and exclusion. Like, the mice in Minnesota, they like to climb trees. Like, they live part of their life in trees. So with that, this whole logic around, well, mice are just going to get in on the foundation and all that, not. Like, they are everywhere. So it's good stuff. For us at least, but for homeowners, it's like the unknown, the what if, and during that transaction where you guys are involved, there's so much happening for a new homeowner. Like, we've bought a couple homes ourselves as we've grown our family, and the amount of financial questions and all of these different things coming in. Plus, you got to move all your crap into a van and move that over. There's a lot of stuff, right? So
stressful.
So it's really easy to oh, it's just mice and ignore that, right?
Yeah.
So I would say don't do that. And I see some correlation between negative R value impact from the mice in the insulation and the homes we're going out to and removing ice dams from right now. I mean, there's
totally
it's not one of the two things you said, right? It's not exactly the heat coming up or the snow on there, but it's one of the factors, right? With all these other factors contributing.
Well, that's the pests screw up your insulation, and that leads to heat reaching your roof decking. So it definitely is one of those two things, Matthew. Yeah.
Sweet. There you go. So what do you think about safety around ice dam during the season right now? I mean, other than not standing underneath the icicles and drinking the water like me and my brothers used to do at the apartments growing up, what?
Same here. Yeah. The icicle popsicles, you'd walk around and chew on them. Of course. Yeah.
So other than that,
well, don't walk your own roof to get the snow off, and don't get on your own roof to hack away at ice dams. I mean, if you already have ice dams and you want to get rid of them, you know what's causing leaking. Natural inclination might be to get up there with a hatchet or something or a hammer and beat away at it. That's a great way to fall off the ladder. I mean, I know one realtor. This guy used to give us a bunch of business, and he was up there messing around with his roof. He had an ice dam. He fell off his ladder 2 stories up, and he was messed up. I mean, he was lucky to live through that experience.
I mean, it's sad, man, but we've ran into a few situations like that too, where, I mean, nobody really budgets for a squirrel or a woodpecker issue, right? So the price point there's a lot of uncertainty that people have. So we've gone to a few times where people get scaffolding or they borrow their cousin's brother's ladder or whatever, and they're doing something where you haven't been on a ladder in 45 years or never.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it now? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in my mind, just an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. My grandfather told me that growing up, and it kind of echoes in my mind still with just what we see every single day.
Yes.
All the phone calls for new customers, a lot of this can be prevented.
Yep.
Ice dams, unfortunately, half the equation we cannot prevent here, right? The snow, other than the last couple of years, you can't really stop that one.
Yeah, exactly. And just one other thing, I mean, I want to touch on, because someone's going to talk about it. They're going to say, well, I talked to my roofer, and my roofer told me I need more insulation. So we touched on insulation. You need it. And I need more ventilation. Everybody harps on these two things. They talk about insulation and ventilation. It's the only two things people understand. And I'm telling you, ventilation might be 5% of the problem. It's a very minor thing. If you have everything air sealed, you don't have warm air leaking up in your attic space, and you have everything properly insulated, the ventilation is not going to play much of a role. It's not going to be doing much. Ventilation treats the symptoms.
Tell me more about it.
They help to get your attic colder because you have air coming in and coming out. But the only reason your attic is getting warm is because you don't have enough insulation and you have air leaks. Now and the symptoms are you have ice dams and you have frost in the attic. And it'll help treat those symptoms a little, but not even very well. If you have everything perfectly air sealed, perfectly insulated, you probably don't even need attic ventilation. Now, I'm not telling you to remove your attic vents. I'm just telling you it's the last thing you should look at. All the important stuff first.
So the soffit ventilation, essentially that's supposed to come up through the soffits, and that kind of moves the air up.
Supposed to. Yeah, you phrased it very well, Matthew. If you look at an illustration or a diagram of how roof vents work, you've got low vents, soffit vents or whatever, and air is going to come into those. And then you've got vents at the top where it's going to be box vents or ridge vents, and then air is going to leave out of those. That's what it looks like in an illustration. And it's assuming that the air is going to warm up, and warm air is lighter than cold air, so it rises, and then it leaves out those vents. But in reality, that's not how it works. You get just a little wind, 5-mile-per-hour wind against a house, and it's going to totally change that whole illustration. And you're going to have air coming in one side, whichever the wind is blowing, and then you're going to have air coming out the other side, wherever the wind is not blowing. And you might have air passing right over the top or right over the bottom of the attic and leaving again out a soffit vent. So our intake vents, air quotes on intake, our intake vents might be intake, they might be exhaust vents, and the upper vents might be doing nothing. Those might be intake, those might be exhaust. It all depends on which way the wind is blowing. So there's a lot of different ways that roof vents work, and I don't get whipped up about excessive vents or lack of vents when I'm doing a home inspection, because I've found very little correlation between roof vents and ice dams, roof vents and attic frost and mold in the attic. I've had horrible ice dams at houses with great ventilation, and vice versa.
The whole heat rises thing doesn't play into that whole...
Not really. No. I mean, that's in a perfect world. It's in a model. And, the way the model works is it says warm air rises. The heat is going to travel in every direction. It'll go up and down every direction. But air, once air is warmer, it becomes lighter through gravity, and then it just rises up. But it doesn't work that way in an attic. It goes whichever way the wind is pushing it.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Homegrown Hustle. It's been an honor to share the stories of local legends who make our community thrive. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Please stay tuned for more insight and inspiration. We got a lot of heat in the chamber. This is Matthew Eickman saying peace out until next time. Get hustling.